Welcome aboard the Ear to There podcast, the podcast that'll help you vacation like a pro in any Disney destination. For those of you standing, please sit down and hold on throughout our journey and get ready to learn how to have the time of your life. And now, here's your host, Phil Gramlich.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ear to There podcast. This is your captain speaking, and I am also the host of the show. My name is Phil Gramlich, and I am the owner of Ear to There Travel, which is a Disney-specialized travel agency. It's my job to take away all that stress, that anxiety, and all the time that it takes to plan a Disney trip, so you can focus on the fun things like having a great time with your family and friends and enjoying the magic. Oh, and one thing I always want to mention is I set up your hotel booking. I will handle your fast passes, your dining reservations, your golf tee times, your special event tickets, your transfers to and from the airport, rental cars, cruises, anything you could think of. I handle all of that absolutely for free at no extra cost to you. All right, this is episode number 53 for the week of January 30th, 2017. Now, grab a drink, grab a snack, and as a famous mouse once said, on with the show. One thing I say in the intro at the open of every show is that I want to help save you time, right? Because time is so important on your Walt Disney World trips, or really your trips to any Disney destination, including the Disney Cruise Line and Disneyland and Adventures by Disney. Your time and how you spend it is very, very valuable. But what about those vacations when you only have a limited or a little bit of time in the theme parks? What about those trips where you're only going to be in Walt Disney World's parks for a day or two or three? Of course, you're not going to be able to do and see everything on any trip, especially on those short, smaller trips. So this week, and I'm kind of going against everything I always say because I tell you always to take your time, enjoy it, spend a lot of days in the parks. This week, I want to talk about which attractions you might want to skip if you have only a limited amount of time in the theme parks. Here to talk all about the places he stopped going to in Walt Disney World years ago is a guy who has been on the show yet again for quite a while. You know him as the guy who loves the trash smell over by Splash Mountain. Chuck Rodriguez, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Phil. Yes, this time of the year, you cannot smell that smell, so I kind of miss it.
Yeah, it's the summer months is when you can really smell all the trash and your phone ringing.
Yes, my work phone. Sorry.
So we'll just sit quietly until it's done. All right. So anyway, let's get back to the actual topic at hand. All right. So I've done, and I know you've done the same thing. I've done every attraction, every show in Walt Disney World. There's not one I haven't done. And I'm sure you're the same way, right? I mean, there can't be anything that you haven't done in Walt Disney World.
No, I can't imagine. No.
So, all right. So we're both kind of like authorities on this topic and on which attractions we would skip if we had such a limited amount of time in the theme parks. Maybe we're even experts. Let's say we're both experts on this.
I would say we might as well toot our own horn. Yes, because it's not far off from the truth.
Yeah, man. All right, good. We're experts. Good. So mark that down if you're listening at home. So listen. So I know I have a lot of reasons why I'd skip certain things if my time was limited, which it kind of always is with the little kids. And I wish I could have hit every single attraction in the parks, but when you're there a week or 8 days, or you can't. You just can't hit every single one. There's just too many of them. So I think this will be a good one so I took the spin of it where I chose mine based on if you have, limited time in the parks and you have kids with you, like I always do, because, there's some that with kids, you just have to skip. You can't do. I don't know. I think you took the opposite, right? Without kids?
I did, and then I went one step further. I was remembering during the 4.5 years when I didn't live in Orlando, and I remember conversations with certain adults that I met up in the New York, New Jersey area who had never gone to Disney World. Which, first of all, I always say that except for economic reasons, you should never be an adult in America and never have gone to Walt Disney World.
Agreed.
Geographic reasons or any other type of reasons should not come into play whatsoever. And so I remember having conversations with them where they might be going to Florida for the first time for something for work or for something like going to Miami that they would find more interesting, but they were going to give themselves 1 to 3 days at Walt Disney World. So I'm basing it on some of the advice that I gave them.
Oh, that's actually a cool way to do it. I didn't even think about that way. All right, good. So yeah, yours is more of like this short, like spin-off work trip for an adult. And mine is more of, okay, yeah, we got it. Everybody got it. I already explained my stance. All right, so you're the guest. You go first. I want to hear your first one.
Okay, so out of all of the thrill rides, I would suggest to folks that they would go on Expedition Everest.
Wait a minute. This was, I think we're on different pages here, man. It was, what I said was the ones that you would skip if you didn't have enough time.
Oh, the ones where you would skip.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. I did not actually go with the skipping, but this is fun. This is fun. I love twists and turns.
It's like live TV here.
This is why I took improv classes. Yes, so that I could improvise on the spot.
Do you want me to give you a couple minutes? No,
okay. I'm okay. So basically, then I would skip 99% of all Disney sessions. If
Again,
I'm talking to adults who've never been before.
This show is about Walt Disney World, and my job as a Disney travel agent is to get more people to experience and enjoy Walt Disney World.
Okay, good point. I do have to remind people, some of us who live here and have been there a million times, we do become a little bit complacent.
Yeah,
just
jaded.
a little jaded,
yeah.
little complacent. Okay.
Do you want me to go first so you can get your list together a little bit?
Okay, go ahead. What the heck? Go ahead.
All right. So the way I did it was I kind of went through. I had the big, huge list of Walt Disney World attractions in front of me, and then I kind of, scanned through the list and decided which ones I would skip. So here's my first one. I'm not going to go in any order. I'm just kind of going through my list. Okay, this one, this is a kind of a 3-in-1. Okay, and they're in World Showcase at Epcot. And they are the 3 World Showcase films.
I figured you were going to say that.
Yeah, no, I would definitely skip these. If I was an adult and I had the time to do it, absolutely, I would go do all 3. But, and I am an adult, kind of. But if I'm there with my kids and we have one day in Epcot, I'm just simply not going to do it. Your kids, if you have little kids like I do, they're not going to have the patience to sit through O Canada, Reflections of China, or Impressions de France, or Chuck with your accent, it would be what?
Which one's left?
Impressions de France. You're getting your list together, I know. Never mind. So, if you
the Impression de France.
There you go. That's what I was looking for.
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
So, yeah, if you have little kids, I just think they're not going to have the patience to. There's not like there's a long line for any of these 3 movies,
no.
But they're not going to have the patience to get into the pavilion, wait in line for the show, then stand there and watch the show. It's a lot. You're asking a lot from your kids. So I would say, if you're in Epcot, you have limited time, you have one day there, whatever, skip these 3 films and focus more on, if you're in World Showcase, exploring the pavilions. I think the kids would have a lot more time going to the Kid Cot stations, coloring the Duffy stick figures, or whatever they are. Talking to the cast members, trying the food, going into the stores. That's a better use of your time if it's limited than these 3 films for kids.
Not for nothing, but I always assumed parents could just basically save the money, and at home you could just have like coloring books and Crayola crayons at different rooms of the house, and then just like have a neighbor stand around and talk to the kids.
that would be your Kid Cot station?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I guess you could do that. I mean, you're going to have the neighbors are going to have to learn about different cultures and languages.
Buy them a hat.
Or you just go to a multicultural neighborhood, and so you'll have, different ethnicities
Well, that
that
too,
can all
yes.
talk to your kids. There you go.
Yes, no, and then the only comment I'm going to make is that as pathetic as it sounds, I'm sure that in my lifetime I've had a conversation about the 3 films at Epcot several times, and the only part of the conversations that would apply here is that if a person, for some odd reason, an American who got into their 30s or 40s and had never been to a Disney theme park before, if they've never seen a Circle Vision, so they've never seen a Circle Vision film, right? Because the only other way you could have seen a Circle Vision film is if you probably went to a World's Fair back in the 60s or 70s. Then I would say do Canada, because it's a Circle Vision film and it's funny.
Yeah, I mean, you have to get Martin Short's humor, of course.
Yeah.
I like Martin Short. But yeah, no, that is a good one. But yeah, if, again, adults, go see it. Little kids, you might want to skip them. So, Chuck,
Yes.
did you have enough time?
Yes. No, I got it. I can
ignoring my
improvise.
first one to get your list together.
So I'm not going to go with the obvious, which is I could be here all day naming all of the. If I'm going to still take my spin on it. So I'm not going to go waste all day just naming obviously the stuff that only children like. So I'm going to go with, like, for example, if people have limited time, and I would of course expect them to do at least a couple Disney thrill rides. The ones that you would miss, I'm going to go with Big Thunder Mountain. Out of all the Disney thrill rides, that is on the bottom of my list.
Wow.
Yes.
That's surprising.
It is. No, I don't think so. I mean, it's a classic and it's very nice, but if you truly want the best of the thrill and the combination of a storyline or something unique,
that's a good point.
Then I would go with the others. I would not go with Thunder Mountain.
Yeah, there is a story in Thunder Mountain. I think if you don't fast pass it now, if you go through the queue, you learn the story a lot more than you used to. But yeah, if you want the combination of thrills and story, I you're right. But for me, like that, I think I've had. I did, like, during the Final Four, like the NCAA Final Four, I did a roller coaster tournament where people voted, and that won. Like, from people that, follow me on Facebook and Twitter and that kind of thing, that got the most votes out of everything. That beat, like, Everest and everything else. So, as far as roller coasters, not just thrill rides. But for me, yeah, I love that. We took all 3 kids this last trip on Big Thunder Mountain. Now, our oldest, Alexa, had done it a couple of times before, but this is the first time we took Jack and Zoe. And Jack and Zoe are 4. I know I mention them all the time, but they just turned 4 in October. And Zoe loved it, I have to say. Jack, when it was done, we were like, Bud, did you love it? And he goes, not as much as Mickey's PhilharMagic.
Where you just sit with glasses on.
I'm starting to worry that he might not be a thrill ride kind of guy.
No, maybe not.
So yeah, but no, it's an interesting pick. I wouldn't. I can't imagine a Disney trip without Thunder Mountain, but that's why I say, what is it? Now I can't. Tomato, you say tomato. And if you
that's right. Different strokes for different folks.
If you did say tomato, we wouldn't be friends. All right, so I'm up, I guess, for my next one. And you know what, Chuck? I'm just going to get this one out of the way because I rip this one all the time. And it's probably not fair to this attraction, but I just don't like it. So I'm staying in Magic Kingdom, going to Adventureland, the Magic Carpets of Aladdin. Even if you're an adult, if you have kids, even if you have a lot of time in the parks, let alone just a little bit of time, I'd skip this one. It's Dumbo without the iconic attraction. Is really what it is. It's a spinner attraction. It's the 3rd one that was added to the park. You really don't need it there. It takes away the theme at Adventureland. I've always said that, and it takes up way too much room because it's hard walking through that area. Yeah, it is. It congests. It makes that whole area. Like, it was open air, like Bazaar before, and now it's congested, and it's
ridiculously congested.
There's a million strollers, and listen, I'm the biggest culprit of this because I have 2 strollers all the time. But there are a million strollers, and it's so hard to get through. It really is. If you want to go get your Dole Whip, as we did last week, you have to fight through that crowd of strollers and kids just to get your Dole Whip. And the problem with this for little kids is they're going to want to ride it. They're going to see it. And they're going to really want to ride it, but the problem is they get impatient in that line because it can be long and it's hot. Yes, it is. There's no shade really. So you're sitting in this hot, sunny line with your little kids. They're going to get impatient. They're going to get aggravated. Honestly, I think if you skip this one, you can avoid meltdowns from your kids. So for me, with my kids, we've done it only when it's kind of slow in the park and they look and it's like a 5-minute wait, we'll jump on it. But other than that, and then I mutter under my breath how much I can't stand it the entire ride. But yeah, I just think especially if you have limited time, skip it.
I can't add anything to that. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I go on my rants sometimes, and there's just better left on everything else is better left unsaid. All right, go ahead, Chuck. What do you got for your improvised list for your next one?
All right. Well, since I'll go ahead and stay in the Magic Kingdom, but this is not going to be an attraction thought. This is a thought about food. I'm going to say if you have a limited time and you're in the Magic Kingdom, do not bother eating. Just snack.
I love the snack day.
And save yourself for a good Disney meal, especially if you're adults. Because Disney restaurants are as exciting as Disney attractions nowadays. So I think that with all, and I've said this before, I'm sure even in these podcasts, with all the improvements that have been happening with Disney dining in the past decade, there is no reason to get excited whatsoever about eating in the Magic Kingdom, unless, of course, you wound up with a once in a billion chance of getting a reservation at Be Our Guest or Cinderella's Royal Table. But I say, in general, just skip eating. Try to eat some popcorn and a hot dog, and then treat yourself to a real meal later on or a different day.
Yeah, I actually like that. I really like. Like, I'm so surprised that I like it. Wow, I really like that idea. But no, I do. I like that idea. Magic Kingdom for me over the last 4 years or so, the quick service has kind of taken a dip, while the table service has kind of risen a little bit. I think with Be Our Guest. Now, yeah. I really like Skipper Canteen, and I'd recommend going to that one if you did have the time or could get a reservation for it. But yeah, I think if you want to do a snack day at Magic Kingdom, I love that idea. You get popcorn, you get all right, here's the perfect snack day, right? Let me go through it for you. You start out with the popcorn from the red cart on the left-hand side of Magic Kingdom when you walk in. You go there, that's your first snack. Then you're going to be hungry by the time you get to town. By the time you get to Town Square, go to Casey's, grab your hot dog nuggets, your corn dog nuggets, take a left into Adventureland. You can get the cheeseburger spring rolls, right? Stay in Adventureland. You can get the Dole Whip. There's too many good snacks there. It's a great idea.
And by the next trip, you're going to need to use a electric scooter to get around the park.
By the next trip, by that afternoon, going by what I just said, you're going to be done. You be like that bloated, you know how you get that bloated feeling when you eat too much on Thanksgiving and you're laying on the couch. Well, I was going to say laying on the couch watching football, but I know you and I differ on our football viewing.
Yes, I've literally never turned on the TV when there's a football game.
Yeah, but you do enjoy Thanksgiving though, so that's good.
Well, yes.
Yeah, I looked at idea.
So my other thoughts is that yes, the Skipper Cantina, the food is great. I am disappointed with the atmosphere. I think they could have gone way farther in matching the atmosphere to the incredible food. And also, I remember back in the day before podcasts and the internet and everything, when I used to just read the Steve Birnbaum guides, and it always said, you may as well, especially if you're going to be at the Magic Kingdom on a day where it's open from like 8 a.m. till midnight. That's a 16-hour day. You may as well at some point take a monorail to one of the restaurants at one of the monorail resorts. And you may as well, because not only do you get to experience that, but then also it's a nice break. So, and the food is going to be better and the atmosphere is better.
You're right. Obviously, the first thing I think of is take the monorail to the Polynesian, go to Kona, go to Ohana.
Oh, yes. That's my favorite.
Even Captain Cook's has a good selection.
Oh, you might as well. Oh, I love the pork sandwich there.
Yeah. Or go to Trader Sam's, and they have the small plates there. You can get the wings or the lettuce wraps. You can get all the cool drinks there. I agree. By the way, you did call the Skipper Canteen the Skipper Cantina, and now I can't decide if they should have a Star Wars theme. Is that what you want them to do?
Maybe it's just foreshadowing for a few years from now.
Yeah, right. All right, so I want to go for my next one. I'm going to stay in. I'm going to beat up Magic Kingdom a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to beat up Magic Kingdom and go. This one again. Tomorrowland Speedway in Tomorrowland, obviously. Here's the problem with it. Young kids have to be a certain height to drive, right? You can't have your 3-year-old driving a car. So that's for me, when you think of the Tomorrowland Speedway, you think it's kids get to drive cars, and it's not always the case if your kid isn't tall enough. The other thing is the line is always long. Always, 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 always long.
Mm-hmm.
Which, to me, I get it. It's a slow-loading attraction. It's a slow-moving attraction. It's like you don't have a time limit. You know what I mean? There's no set time that you can be on that attraction. So you can be waiting in line for an hour, and it takes you 10 minutes to get on the track. For me, it's just something that you can skip, especially if you have little kids. And even maybe if you're an adult, like how many adults at these days in 2017 are going to wait 50 minutes to drive a toy car around the track for 5 minutes? Like, not many. And I don't want to badmouth the attraction, but I kind of am, because I think it's overdue for either a refurbishment or a replacement. Because it's the same type of attraction you can find in amusement parks all over the country. Like, they're all over the place. And not to mention, if you have little kids, there's no shade in that queue. So if you try it and it's summer, you're done. Your kids are going to be cooked. They're going to be tired. They're going to be hot. I just think, especially if you have little kids, you just skip this one if again, if you can get a fast pass for it and your kids love cars and you want to do it. But if you're in the Magic Kingdom for a day, I say skip it.
Don't even get me started on this. I saw a few days ago that at Tokyo Disneyland, their Grand Prix Speedway finally closed since it's been there since the park opened in 1983. And all I can say is I wish I was Japanese. That's all I can say.
You can sing the Turning Japanese song.
Oh yeah, Turning Japanese. I really think so.
Yeah, it is. It's a shame. It's because it's in Disneyland. It was a staple. It's like an opening day attraction. And Walt Disney World, it's been there obviously since opening day too. But right, am I crazy about that? I think it has been since 71. Yeah. It's about time. I think they need to do something. And this isn't a show about what they need to replace, but I think it's time. They need to kind of get on with the times. Plus, it smells. In the summer, you walk by, it's gas, it's fumes. I think that it's time. So. But anyway, I sound like, I'm completely bad-mouthing it, which I probably am. But if you have little kids that really want to ride it and they don't mind being a passenger, by all means, do it. But again, if your time's limited, skip it. It's worth it. All right, Chuck, you staying in the Magic Kingdom or are you going somewhere else?
No, I'll go ahead and go to Epcot.
All right.
And I'm going to go with Illuminations. And I'm going to tell you why.
Because, man, Chuck. You are not making any friends on this episode.
That's fine. Okay. Again, I remember the conversations I had with a few people who had never been to Walt Disney World before, and they were in their 20s or 30s or 40s. And I'm thinking, if you have one day at Epcot, you've never been to Epcot in your entire life, and as long as you get to see one of the other shows, because I would prefer, if you've never seen a Disney nighttime show. Personally, I would put Fantasmic at the top of the list, especially if you've never been to Disney World before, because I think it encompasses everything that Disney truly does best and what the whole point of Disney is. So I always will pick Fantasmic. So if you're at Epcot and you're an adult and you've never been there before, I think you should take your time to make a reservation for a fancy restaurant. And if you get it at 8:55 and that means you cannot see the fireworks because you're eating, oh well. Or if you didn't get a fast pass for Soarin' or for Test Track or for Frozen, I would also jump online at 8:55 and skip Illuminations.
You know what? That's good. There's some. What did who said it this way? Whoever played George W. Bush back in the day on Saturday Night Live used to say that's.
Will Ferrell.
Oh yeah, strategery. Remember when he was like,
strategery.
How you would sum up his campaign? He said strategery. Yeah, that's a good strategy though. It is. Because those are, like, I know you want to do, if it's your first time there, you want to do Frozen Ever After and you want to do Soarin'. And those are tough ones to get to during the day, unless you want to wait over an hour on average. I mean, when we were there last week, I didn't see Frozen Ever After under an hour the entire time.
Never.
So, and it's a great, and listen, that was the first time I got to ride it. I didn't do like a full, I need to do a recap of all the new stuff that I did. but I loved it. I thought all the animatronics worked. I thought it was great. I really did. My kids loved it, and we'll be doing that a couple times next trip. But you're right. That's a really good idea to skip that. Although I don't. It's funny because I agree with you, but then I disagree with you because I think you have to see Illuminations. But yeah, if you're going to make a sacrifice, go see Fantasmic, and then do that instead. That's a good idea.
Yes.
By the way, Fantasmic to me really hasn't lost a step at all. It's still such a good show. Like even I'd put that up against like World of Color, and World of Color is obviously a much more technically advanced what word am I looking for? Technologically advanced show. But yeah, it's Fantasmic's still great. And it's what now? 20 years old, I think?
Yes, I remember going
Studios?
to it when it was still during previews, and it was actually when I was interviewing for a job at Walt Disney World.
Yeah, so I mean, you're old, so that's a long time.
It was October or September of 1998.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Yeah,
because I was a college program in 1998, and obviously now I'm saying I'm old as well. But then that's when they were building. I remember every day when I would go, not every day, but when I would go to Hollywood Studios, and they were building Rock on Roller Coaster. It was over, it's back near that area. And I would see the Rock and Roller Coaster, like they would build a little more to coaster every day. But what was really cool was they built the roller coaster track first.
Oh, and then the building around it.
Yeah, so it was so cool to see the coaster going up a little bit every day. That was cool. I guess that makes sense to do it that way, but it was really neat.
Yeah.
All right, back on track. Staying in Epcot. And this one's easy. This one I think you should skip anyway. Listen, unless you have huge, and I mean huge, Lion King fans as children.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, skip the Circle of Life show. Just skip. That's something that you have to skip. That little theater needs something in it that isn't the Circle of Life show. Really, if you're going to the Land Pavilion, there are way better things to do. Okay? Wait in line for Soarin', get a fast pass for Soarin'. Just get in line for Living with the Land. That's much better than the Circle of Life show. The show is outdated. It's old. And it's not, listen, it's not much of a time killer, though. I mean, you can get in and out fast. But I think you're better off taking your kids, going down to Sunshine Seasons, getting a snack and sitting down, then skipping that and skipping that show. Just because, listen, unless your kids love Timon and Pumbaa, there's no reason to go to it. Seriously.
And even if they do like Timon and Pumbaa, just whip out your phone and get it on YouTube, and just have them sit down on the floor.
Yeah,
in
they
the
can do it.
the building.
Yeah, they can do it while they have their snack. You don't have to get in line. And I'm not kidding. Whenever I'm walking past the land, I'm sorry.
Yes, when you see the cast member.
Yeah, and I see that poor cast member standing there, like with that sad face, working in front of Circle of Life. I always feel so bad for them because you get that. For people who didn't work in Walt Disney World or any Disney location, it's so exciting when you get that acceptance to you're working in the park, and then you get Epcot attractions as your assignment, and you're probably like, oh my God, I'm going to work, somewhere like Mission Space, or I'm going to do Frozen Ever After, and then they're like, okay, you're working Circle of Life. It's got to be a rough gig for those poor people. Anyway, listen, and again, I'm not one to badmouth Disney. I do love everything about it, but some of these things that I'm mentioning, it's not worth your time. It's not worth the time to wait. You're right. You can get it on YouTube and watch it while you're waiting in line for something else. It's the same experience, basically. So
exactly.
Yeah. So, all right, Chuck, you're up for your next one.
Okay.
I don't even know what number we're at.
Oh, I haven't been contributing.
I have so many. I was going to look at the time and just go by that.
Right. That's fine. I have decided I am going to add one child loving attraction that's very popular amongst children, and obviously add it to a list, especially if you're going to take the take of if you're adults and if you're going to Disney World for the first time. And it's at the studios, and it is the Disney Junior show. Now, I have personally seen the Disney Junior show several times because your children and my nieces love it.
Right.
So plus I also have a good friend who actually sometimes rotates and actually is the person, I guess, they're always called Casey, whether it's a man or a woman or something. Yeah.
Chuck, now let's not ruin the magic for people. They're all Disney somehow found a way to employ only Casey's.
Only people who are Casey. Yes.
Yes.
All right. So moving on from that old-fashioned thought. So what I'm gonna say is that okay, it's a kid show, and obviously kids love it, and it's well done. If you have any familiarity at all with any of the Disney Junior shows, you're gonna get it. But you have to sit on the floor, and let me tell you what. Now at 41 years old, for me to sit Indian leg style on the floor for 15 minutes is horrendous. It's so uncomfortable.
And first of all, we call that crisscross applesauce now. Indian style is that was called out as non-PC like years ago. Just let you know.
Okay, I'm still going to call it that because that's what we used to call it when I was a kid.
I know, but you can't call it that anymore. It's not.
Yes.
Anyway, it is. I can see how it could be offensive. It's funny. Old habits are hard to break. I call that all the time. My kids are like, "That is crisscross applesauce." I'm like, "All right, man. I don't know," but no. But
yeah, so you understand. You agree with me. It's too uncomfortable. It's too uncomfortable.
It is. Listen, and I banged up my knee training for the Disney Marathon weekend that I didn't even get to run in because I also broke my rib. I had bad luck with signing up for these races, but
you do.
I told Amy, my wife, last week I said, she said I'm going to take the Jack and Zoe to see the Disney Junior show, and then I said, all right, well I'll take Alexa. We'll do something else because my knee was killing me, and I was like, I'm not going to get down on that floor and then have to sit there for a half hour and then get up. But Alexa, of course, was like, I'm going. I want to see it. So Amy took all three, and I went and did like Facebook Live on Star Wars or something. But yeah, I agree. Especially if you're an adult, that's not something you're gonna spend your time doing. It's a cute show if you have kids. My kids see it every trip, but yeah, if you're an adult, you're not. There's no reason to even go in that theater. There's really not.
No.
Unless you're Casey, then you have to go to work.
Yes, obviously.
All right. So I don't know. Let me see if I have any ones for the studios so I can stay. Yeah, you know what? I do have one for the studios, and this is only like my list. Obviously, is geared towards not doing with children.
With children, yes.
And this is obviously only for kids because, as an adult, I think this is one that you have to ride, especially because it's been rumored that it's either going to be replaced or rethemed. So I think you have to do it now, and it's the Great Movie Ride. If you do have kids, I do think you kind of have to skip it, especially young kids. I didn't realize how scary it is. I didn't think about it really because I was thinking Wizard of Oz. I was thinking Mickey and Fantasia. I was thinking, the Western. I wasn't thinking, the Busby Berkeley and Singing in the Rain, Mary Poppins. I wasn't thinking Alien. I wasn't thinking the gangster shootout. I wasn't thinking, the gangland or the streets or any of that stuff. So I took I took Alexa on it when she was like 3, and haven't done it since because she was scared to death. And there's nothing you can do because you're on this attraction for like how many 20-some minutes. And yeah, I think if you have little kids and you think they might be afraid of stuff like that, definitely skip it because you're not only going to ruin the time on the attraction for yourself and for everyone else who was with you when your kid's screaming and crying, but you might be risking ruining the rest of your day because then your kid's not going to trust you to take them on attractions, right? Like it happened to me. So I'm saying if you're an adult, definitely take the time, do the ride. If you're an adult with children, think twice before you do it, definitely, because it can scare the pants off your kids. And it did mine.
I actually could not agree more, and I have experienced it with my niece, who's only 2 months older than Alexa. So yes, I completely get it.
And it's funny, like, I don't know why I didn't think that it would be scary. There's an alien that tries to attack you, and they, like, what was I thinking? Because
if you really break it down, we know that scene actually is so lame because the alien. I mean, as an adult, I obviously as a child is different, but as an adult, the alien barely moves and is obviously on some sort of a piston that just makes it go kind of sort of forward and backward above you. It's there's the steam that comes out and there's the red light and the warning. That's probably more intimidating than the actual alien itself.
You're probably right. Yeah, and then the gunshots and there's just a silly.
The gunshots I find to be the biggest problem. And I don't know if I ever told you this story, but one of my most most memorable moments of going to Walt Disney World when I used to go very, very often, all day long, sometimes even by myself, is a little girl who got so scared that she actually, in the middle of the ride, I guess her family was kind of split between the first row of like the second vehicle and the last row of the first vehicle. Uh-oh. And the little girl jumped from the last row of the where she was sitting, the last row of the one vehicle of the first vehicle, into the first row of the second vehicle where her mother was, in order to get to just basically hold on to her mother. And I remember the cast member and everybody flipped out and had to stop the vehicle.
Oh yeah,
because the girl jumped, from one vehicle to another in the middle of the ride. So I'll never forget that.
Oh man, yeah, okay. That's a great example of, if you have kids, maybe skip the Great Movie Ride, because you don't want your kid getting run over by one of those ride vehicles.
No, not at all.
I'm sure it e-stops. I'm sure it has an automated stop when it senses feet in front of the car. But
yes.
Just to be safe, it's probably better to skip it. All right, so I think I have a couple more. I have actually a bunch more, but we'll each do a couple more if you still have.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, all right, go ahead, Chuck. You're up for your next one then.
Well, then I might as well continue on the studios, and I'm gonna say everything that does not have a moving vehicle. Skip everything that does not have a moving vehicle. I don't even know what else I could say about that, if you have any thoughts, because it's just obviously right now the studios is in transition, and the map has to point out a bunch of these lame displays and walkthrough attractions and things in order for it to seem like you're going to get your money's worth to be there for more than 2 hours. But when it comes down to it, if it's your first time ever and you only have half a day to see the studios, right, obviously focus on how many things that actually have a moving vehicle now? 1, 2, 3, 5. There's 5 things that actually have a moving vehicle involved.
Yeah, listen, I both agree and disagree, because this is a tough one for me, because my kids, we go to studios and we make it a full day every time because they love the shows, right? So I agree with you that you want to hit the headliners. You want to hit Rock and Roller Coaster. You want to hit Tower of Terror, Toy Story Midway Mania, Star Tours. What's the 5th one that I'm missing?
Great Movie Ride.
Great Movie Ride.
Did you say that? Yeah.
Yeah. You want to, as an adult especially, you want to hit all of those. But if you do have kids, then I'm taking the opposite angle on that. Because I think you have to do, and especially if you have kids that haven't been there before, you need to do Voyage of the Little Mermaid. You have to do the Frozen show. I mean, my kids were the attraction inside the attraction of the Frozen show last week, because they were singing their hearts out for every song, and people were turning around and looking at us, like smiling. And when the show was over, they came up to us and they were like, "Oh my God, I couldn't stop looking at your kids the entire time. They were so funny." But you're right. You're right in a way that, again, I disagree with you, but I agree with you. Because I think,
and I don't want to seem completely harsh, because the truth is, as a local who goes constantly, yes, when I do get to go to the Frozen show, I do enjoy the Frozen show. I don't enjoy Indiana Jones anymore. I really don't get anything out of it like I used to when during the first 2 decades that it was open. But I must say the Frozen show, because I do like to sing along and I also know all the words. Yes, I do enjoy that. I have to admit.
That's funny, because this was Alexa's first time seeing the Indiana Jones show this past trip, and I mean, blown away. Like, watching her watch it. Like, listen, yeah, I've seen it a dozen or 2 dozen times, right? So I'm not surprised by the things, the little surprises and the tricks that happen on the show. I knew they all were coming. I knew what jokes were coming. I knew the stunts. I knew everything. But she didn't. So watching her, found myself watching her more than I was watching the show, because I wanted to get her reactions from it, because she thought it was awesome. Like, she'd never seen anything like that before. So yeah, again, I agree and I disagree. So we're gonna have to agree to disagree on this.
Exactly.
All right. So my next one, I'm done with Hollywood Studios. I think everything else, I think we pretty much covered it.
Okay. Yep.
Let me look, and I'm trying to look at my. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna go back to Magic Kingdom one last time. And this isn't for political reasons at all.
Oh, good Lord.
We are recording this on the day of the presidential inauguration.
Do you want to do a lot of editing today?
No, you're not going to be political on my show. That's a rule.
Okay, I promise.
So this isn't political at all. At all. It's not, has nothing to do with the current politics in our country. The reason I would skip Hall of Presidents with kids is for two reasons. One, it's a long show to sit through with little kids. It is. It's long. They're not going to be interested in it. And if they're under 8 years old, forget it. They're not going to sit and watch it. They don't know anything about the presidents yet. They haven't been taught. They probably know the story of George Washington, but I cannot tell a lie. Wasn't that George Washington? Am I crazy? Yeah, I think that's right.
That's him.
And they probably have heard of Abraham Lincoln. And the current president. Other than that, they don't know anything. So for me, I'm not going to wait.
You mean they've never heard of Millard Fillmore?
Well done. Pull the Millard Fillmore joke out of there. That was really well done. I don't know who I would have gone with. Millard Fillmore was perfect.
There's just been a lot of articles about inaugurations and presidents lately, so I remember that name in some article I read yesterday.
So you read a big story about the Millard Fillmore inauguration.
I think it was more like one sentence, but for some reason it stuck in my mind.
That's funny. So yeah, so it's just that you're gonna have to wait in line for it. You're gonna have to the show is a pre-show, then it's a show, and you're gonna be sitting there a while. Listen, in this park in Magic Kingdom. If you have kids, there's more to spend. There's better things to spend. Even in Liberty Square, there's more things and better things to spend your time on with little kids than Hall of Presidents. Go to Haunted Mansion and wait and see the Muppet Show that they have now in Liberty Square, which I loved. I thought that was great, really well done, and it's different. There's different versions of it. So, yeah. If you have little kids, instead of sitting through Hall of Presidents, do the Muppets, do Haunted Mansion instead in Liberty Square. That's my advice.
Yes, and I'm going to be good. And the only thing I'm going to say is if you're adults and it's your first time at Walt Disney World, you have limited time. Between Hall of Presidents and the American Adventure, don't even think twice. The American Adventure is the must-see. Yes.
What's funny is that I actually was a part of my list. Obviously, I wasn't going to say that. You shouldn't see it. But yeah, the American Adventure is one that if you're debating between the two, invest the time at Epcot. At American Adventure, you're better off. That show, you will leave, and we've talked about this before. You're going to leave feeling inspired, and yeah, it's a really cool show. So yeah, do that one.
Yes.
All right, Chuck, you're up.
Okay, then I'll just go simply to the Animal Kingdom, and I'm just going to say there's really not much to say about it, but if you're in the Animal Kingdom, which is a doable park if you don't have much time regardless, but if you have to pick between the two shows, and especially if you're adults and it's your first time, definitely see Nemo, but you can go ahead and skip Lion King.
Wow, I have the exact opposite.
I figured that. For me, and I have seen both shows several times, and to me it's almost apples and oranges, because the Lion King show, although well done, and the new theater that it's in is so comfortable and great. It is, to me, it's like it definitely panders to children, because the whole thing with the characters and it's interactive and you're supposed to follow along one of the characters. It obviously has a little bit of a Cirque du Soleil acrobatic feel to it. But Nemo, to me, if Nemo was they added like maybe another 40 minutes to Nemo could be on Broadway tomorrow.
Which it, by the way,
it's had.
Which it had. And do you remember? Did you go to cast previews when it was?
No.
Because I was a cast member and I got to do the cast previews for that. And yeah, it was long. Like I remember the first time we sat, it was like an hour. Yeah. They cut a whole bunch of it out.
Yeah.
But no, it's so funny that you said that, because I took the completely opposite view, and I think that's because
of the children thing.
Yeah, I was looking at it with kids, because I was saying with that it's a long show even with all that. I mean, Nemo. It's a long show even with all that cut out. And I think you're right. I think kids will be bored in the Finding Nemo show, but the adults will love it. I think you're exactly right with that. So yeah, mine was going to be to skip Nemo, but you're right. If you're adults, you're going to be there. I think you would probably enjoy the Nemo one over Festival of the Lion King. I think you're exactly right, and I don't agree with you much. So so savor that one. All right, so I have two more. So what do you got?
Oh,
What do you
yeah.
got left? All right.
I could definitely do one more.
All right, so here's my next to last one, and I'm going back to the Magic Kingdom, and to the middle of Frontierland, on an island by itself, Tom Sawyer's Island, because Tom Sawyer Island is a great place to take your kids to. Listen, there's no long lines over there. They can run around. There's playground area. There's the barrel bridge, but and it can burn off a ton of energy. But the problem is, it takes a while. It's a time drainer because you have to wait to get over there. You get over there. There's your kids aren't going to want to leave, and then you have to wait in line to get back. You can spend an hour and a half to 2 hours just doing Tom Sawyer Island, and I think if you have the time to do it, great, then it's fun. But if you don't, if you're there, like we keep saying, if you're at the park for one day, that's a big chunk of time to be spending on Tom Sawyer Island. And again, there's no food options over there except for a couple,
snack machines.
Snack machines. Unless you're there when it's super busy and Aunt Polly's is open. To me, I think you skip it, and your kids won't even know because they don't even know it's there. So I think my kids just found out about it, and now we're in trouble because we have to go. But it's if you're there for a short amount of time, I think it's one you can skip.
So it's funny you mentioned this one, and of course I would technically put it on my list and tell people, obviously, skip it. But I've had some really great times at Tom Sawyer's Island.
No, sure you have.
And one of the things I like doing when I do go with, like, when my cousins from New York and New Jersey bring their children, or when I go with my nieces, specifically I say we go. So that way, when we go through the caves, I get up ahead of them and then I scare them.
How did I know that was
going to be scare them? I've done that many times.
I know you do. I knew it was going to be one of your reasons.
And then actually, this past summer in June, there was a day where I went to the Magic Kingdom with a lot of my local friends, a pretty big group actually, and everyone in that group, even the husband and wife couples, are all people who have promised themselves never to have children, and we said, okay, we're going to have the day as if we were almost like children. And we went on Tom Sawyer's Island and we ran around that island scaring each other and going through all of the tunnels and the caves and everything for like an hour. And it was a blast. It was a lot of fun.
You didn't have the cast member come to you like, sir, I think it's time to leave.
No.
Are you Chuck Rodriguez? Have I heard you on that podcast? Yeah, you have to leave. You can't. You scare the children. Please leave.
Well, in that case, we were scaring each other. I mean, I would never scare strangers' children. I would never do that.
I've seen it.
I would never go that far.
You scare strangers' children just by accident. I don't know what that means. That's a bad joke.
No, but I get it. That was a good start to it. There was a potential.
I got to work on it. That wasn't good enough.
Yeah,
that's not up to my usual standards. All right. So my last one. Right. No, you have one more. That was yours.
Yeah, I'll just do one quick one.
Sorry.
It's potentially controversial, but this has come up. I remember this conversation definitely has come up, especially when I've spoken to adults who've never been to Disney or maybe haven't been to Disney since they were small children, and they were coming to Orlando for business, and they had very limited time, and they wouldn't even have like their wives or husbands or anybody with them except for colleagues, and that is basically, except unless you're having a fancy dinner, skip Epcot completely. That is my recommendation. Skip Epcot completely unless you're treating yourself to a 2.5 hour meal at one of the World Showcase restaurants. And I know many business people who that's exactly what they do. They only go into the park for that. That's it.
I don't even know how to respond to that. Honestly.
Well, but think about it. I know on the surface it sounds crazy, but if you really were here, and I remember my dad actually, when growing up, my dad came here for conventions and things a couple times, and yes, the convention folks, after being in the convention center, sometimes right next door at the Yacht and Beach Club Convention Center or the Swan and Dolphin, and they would finish at 5 or 6 o'clock, and the only reason that they would come into the park was because they all would have a big dinner. A couple people might run to a ride, that they like and they've been on before or something right before the park closed. But for the most part, they would only go for the dinner.
Yeah, you get the Epcot After 4 ticket and go do that. I get it.
Oh, there's that too. If you're well, I'm assuming it's only for locals. I can't imagine you would buy that ticket if you don't live here.
Or no, you would if you were on a convention.
Is there a 1-day version? I thought it was an annual thing.
Oh right, yeah. I think I'm thinking of the annual pass.
I don't think there's a 1-day version. There might be, but I don't think there is.
But there used to be.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I remember Amy selling it to conventioners when she worked at.
Oh yes, it was definitely a convention only.
Yeah, it was a convention ticket. I don't know if that's all.
Yeah.
I don't think it is. But
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
I was thinking of. Well, I'm not going to agree with you because I'm not going to condone or ask people to skip Epcot if you're there. I think it's very worthwhile. But maybe if you're on a convention and you have extremely limited time, go. But is it worth? Unless you're getting the ticket for free, it's not really worth spending $100 to get into the park to walk to a restaurant. Right? Am I crazy?
That's obviously yes. That's definitely correct. I mean, unless you truly don't care about money, or if you're expensing it as part of your business trip anyway.
Yeah, there you go. Charge it to the company you work for. That's way easier.
But not for nothing. I can't think of anybody specific, but I'm sure that there are people who could come to Disney World and have a few days and have a park hopper. And maybe only when they go to Epcot, they literally only go for the restaurant. I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
remember, we could speak for hours about what has happened to Epcot and its evolution. Now, apparently, there's going to be $2 billion pumped into it in the next 5 years. So we'll be having a different conversation.
I know.
In years from now. But for right now, it's it definitely has gone away from its original concept, and it's not the most exciting thing on earth, except if you want to eat and get drunk.
Well, I do still like the attractions there, and I think you're right. There are several that are rumored to be being updated and changed, and if all that comes to fruition, I think it's going to be a super exciting park. It's going to be a different park, completely different park.
Yeah. They've said they're definitely going to do it, so we'll have to see, what exactly they do. But
I don't report on rumors, Chuck.
No, I'm only reporting on the actual statement. What's his face actually did make a statement saying there was going to be $1.5 billion invested in Epcot.
What's his face?
He said it like a month ago. Yes, the CEO. I don't know.
Yeah,
I never remember.
Michael Eisner.
No, it wasn't. That one I remember. That was a long time ago.
No, it is Bob Iger.
That's it.
That's that guy. So, all right, my last one. I'm going over to Animal Kingdom again with a child mentality. Well, that's what I have anyway. So let's be honest. It's tough to be a bug. Would be my one. If you have kids, skip it, because the only reason is it is scary as anything for little kids.
Yes, it is.
And parents don't know. You don't know, and there's no show anywhere in Walt Disney World where I have seen parents running out of the theater with their screaming children more than It's Tough to Be a Bug. It starts off so cute. There's Flick. He's telling you about being a bug. There's the bug that shoots the darts. That's kind of fun. Then all of a sudden Hopper comes up out of the he has a scary voice. The whole theater gets full. I'm not going to ruin it for everybody, but there's spiders. There's scary bugs. It's scary, and it's instant. Every kid in that theater that's under 6 years old starts screaming their faces off as soon as those parts happen. And
including adults.
Yeah, it's adults. Listen, it's a great show. It's still, it's 20 years old and it's a great show. It's still good. It's still as good as, when I go with people who haven't done it, it's hilarious watching even adults react to it because of the special effects, of the things that happen in your seat while you're there. It's excellent. But if you have a little kid and you don't want to take them in there, as cute as it looks, and you see the bugs that and even in the little the holding area, they don't have a pre-show really, it's music, but they have the movie posters and it's really cute. And you go in and it seems like it's going to be this just very lovable attraction, and it's not. Again, I don't want to ruin it if you haven't done it, but don't risk having meltdowns if you're a parent and ruining the majority of your day when you have one day in Animal Kingdom. Just if you have kids, young kids, skip it. And when they're older, you'll love it, but when they're little, you won't.
I do agree. And the three things that always comes up when Tough to Be a Bug is discussed is one is that, yes, even I know adults who have a certain very popular phobia that begins with the letter A who refuse to go to it.
Right.
And then, of course, as a person who's been on it now many, many times since opening day, because I literally went on it in opening day, 1998, I know when to lean forward, for example, to not freak myself out. And I'm always been fascinated by the fact that it's the only attraction or really the only attraction where they actually have in the attraction itself, you start hearing a child crying at one point.
Yeah.
You know the part where you start hearing the kid going,
yeah.
And it's right before real kids begin to cry en masse throughout the theater. So it's almost like a last final warning to parents, a subtle final warning that your kid's about to start crying. I think it's hilarious. It's hilarious.
Listen, we took Jack and Zoe on our last trip when they were 3. Why I did that, I don't know. I'm a horrible parent. And within 10 seconds, they were on our laps, and they didn't get a lot, like the physical effects of the attraction. They didn't get it. So I was happy for that. But again, the darkness, the spiders, the steam, the smoke scared them. And this trip, Alexa couldn't wait. She loved it last time. She was 5, and she's a little bit of a daredevil anyway. So she loved all the effects and the sensations. But I didn't even think about taking Jack and Zoe back in because I knew, listen, we're going to have half the day talking them into going, to seeing a zebra now because they're going to be scared. So I think, just skip it. You're better off. You don't want to ruin your day. So, all right, Chuck, this was fun. This is a really
it was a fun one.
This is a good one. Listen, I know I promised you, and people don't know this, one where you're going to come in totally unprepared, but I think you did that. Yeah. But I think you did that today.
Yes, because I honestly did make that mistake. For whatever reason, while you were telling me about this in the last couple of days, I was completely convinced that the topic was not to skip. So this was actually fun because it was practice for what we said we were going to do one of these days.
As opposed to the other ones that we've done that are just terrible and torture.
Well, I mean, I really didn't mean it that way, if that's what I said.
Come on, Chuck. I'm giving you a way to get your grumpy opinions about Disney out there for the world to hear.
My curmudgeon ways where I just feel like all the other podcasts just gave me a sense of ennui.
All right, Chuck. Well, thank you again. Again, we're going to have to do this more often because I think we've done 2 in the last 3 months or 4 months, and that's not enough. So I'm going to call you next week, and you'll have free time, and we'll record 6 in one day. So I'll have the next 6 months of Chuck taken care of. So thanks again, Chuck, for doing this. This was a lot of fun.
No problem. Thank you.
And that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Ear to There podcast. Thank you so much to the one, the only, the oh-so-cynical Chuck Rodriguez for being back on the show. It is always a blast when Chuck comes on to talk Disney with me. And as always, thank you for listening, for spending the time with me. I really appreciate it. And thank you for telling people about the podcast. I don't like getting caught up in the numbers of the downloads and the listens and all those stats that I have. It's not something I try to do, but of course I'm human. I look at it. I look at the numbers. And thanks to you, my numbers have been climbing very steadily over the last several months. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for telling people about the show. And thank you for listening each and every week. It means more to me than you'll ever know. So this week I want to ask you a little something different. If you do enjoy the show, if you are listening each and every week, and you have one of those Apple devices and you're using iTunes to listen, please go over to iTunes and leave an honest review of the show for me. I'd really appreciate that. If you really like it, I would love to know. If you think it stinks, I'd love to know that as well. So thanks so much in advance for any and all reviews that you guys leave this week. Just remember, there will be a new episode of the Ear to There podcast each and every Monday morning, as well as the new episode of the Ear to There podcast, Walt Disney World Word of the Week. And that's each and every Wednesday morning. So until next time, thank you guys so much for listening. Have a great week. Bye-bye.